let's do this. So where did you want to start off? You want to start with your first question?
Yeah, sure. Um, right. So comparing to plan to actual, um, I like that practice, although I'm just wondering how does it work out practically, from a thought process standpoint. You're at the end of the day, you're reviewing
Yes.
your day, right? What sort of questions are you asking yourself as you review and try to improve?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I guess the first question is, well, how far off was my actual versus my plan?
Mm,
So, and you can see straight, that's what I love about the planner and the system
mm,
and everyone that's using it is that you can see so quickly as the day progresses, if how far off you're getting
yeah,
straight away. I'm just looking at my day here and then looking at, and then allowing for, instead, like most time management systems and most people, they'll have an action list, but then they'll get, as the day's progressing, they don't realize, they don't know where they're at. And whereas if you're practicing blocking your time every single day using ABC 1, 2, 3, and
mm,
then blocking it, and then every time you start a new task or an interruption comes in, you actually write that down in your actual
mm,
column.
mm,
That's so powerful because you're learning all the time and you can reflect at the end of the day. So I guess to answer your question, the thought process is, hey, what could have I done better? Did I allow enough time? Things like, did I allow enough time for interruptions, or
mm,
should have I allowed those interruptions at all, or could have I delegated those to somebody else? Could
yeah,
I be training someone else to take this off me?
okay,
You start to you start to recognize patterns of things that are
yeah,
interrupting you. Like today, like right now, I'm working on some new business opportunities right now, and there's already been a bunch of things today that have come across my desk that I've straight away pushed on to my assistant
yeah,
um, and said to her on voice note, hey, this is something new, add this to your checklist, add this to your daily KPIs. And by the way, you need to create an SOP for this, and here's the rough steps, but send
yeah,
me the SOP once you're done, to check it off. So you're always looking for opportunity to replace yourself.
yeah,
And then at the end of the week, or end of the day is good to reflect, but as the day's going, you're sort of seeing it in action in real time, because end of the day is great,
yeah,
but if you're gonna rest the course during the day, because every minute counts, right? That's
right.
so powerful. How have you been finding it so far, like using this method?
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's been good. I've been doing the time blocking method for a while, just on my own. But the piece that was missing for me was um, comparing the actual to the plan.
Yes.
Um, and but it makes sense because that's how you get better. The goal is to get
That's how
1%
you
better
get
every
better.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I just kind of need like a sort of a thought framework, so to make sure that I'm asking the right questions and
Mm.
making the right adjustments, I guess is kind of what I'm after.
Yeah,
But I
that's
do
good.
like the advice of kind of doing that throughout the day because um, at the end of the day, it may not always be the best time. You might forget. Seems like it'd be better in the moment if you can do it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it is good. I mean, end of the day is good for reflection, and probably where I learn the most is on my either Saturday or Sunday, when I reflect on my whole week and I look back and see, when you've got a bit of quiet space, the kids are still in bed early Saturday morning or early Sunday morning, and that's a good chance to spend 15 to 30 minutes, planning the week ahead, but reflecting on the week before, and that's when you can make those adjustments. So you go, well, actually, should our sales meeting really be on a Monday? Maybe we should test it on a Friday afternoon, or
Mm,
maybe my meetings with customers should be all after 2 p.m. Or you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
you're just getting better all the time, and then you test something new that week. So you'll say, right, any customers that want a face-to-face meeting or a Zoom meeting, I'm only going to book them from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. this week, just to see if that's better, so that when
Hmm.
I've got my high energy levels in the morning, I'm getting through all my creative tasks, like my
Yeah.
marketing tasks, my proactive phone calls to customers, or you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's where I probably make the biggest improvements, is that with my weekly reflection. Make sense?
Yeah. It does. Yeah.
Awesome. And of course, I'm always going to say this, that if you don't record your actual, you're missing out on the real juice of this whole system, and the real juice of life, because how can you improve if you don't know where your time's gone?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't give up on that. So many people give up too easily on that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, any more questions around that? Otherwise, we'll rock on to the next question.
Well, kind of related, you say the weekly planning is crucial, and I agree. Um, it's another practice that I've been doing, but I know I can get better at. You mentioned in your planner that it's best to do that on Sundays, Sunday evening, I think. But I'm wondering what would be the advantage of doing it at that time versus, let's say, first thing Monday morning. Um,
Yeah, that's a good question. The
yeah,
problem with waiting till Monday morning is you wake up and the whirlwind hits you and you never plan properly. And I've tried that. I've tried Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning. I've tried everything, but the best space for me and
yeah,
everyone that I've worked with on the system is finding a quiet space when the kids are still asleep and you
yeah,
can put your full mind into planning your week. You'll squeeze another, some weeks I swear I squeeze another 50% productivity out of it just because I spent that 30 minutes planning. So you say, oh, I can't afford that 30 minutes because I should be out mowing the lawns while the kids are asleep or whatever, but you'll get that time back times 10,
yeah,
if you really reflect and block out all your appointments. And I try and block out almost 80 to 90% of my week, with so that and then Monday I'll plan in, pretty much full detail, 99%, so that when I wake up Monday morning, I just follow the plan. And that's the
yeah,
problem. Again, there's the beauty of the system is that it forces you to get up and you've got momentum straight away. You go to bed and you sleep better because
yeah,
tomorrow is already 90% taken care of. It's already planned. You just have to follow the plan. And so if you're depressed or you're a bit down or you've had a
yeah,
tough weekend or you're not feeling too good or anything like that, you can just get out of bed, follow process. And of course, as soon as you make some momentum and you tick off a couple of things,
mm,
you know what happens, your positivity comes back, you keep rolling.
yeah,
And again, that's why if you leave it till Monday morning, you're never gonna do yourself justice. You're gonna end up really stressed and not use this system properly, and you won't be able to lead
yeah,
a good quality life.
yeah. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
That's a
So
great
kind of
question.
relate. So kind of related to that. Okay, the weekly planning. Okay, the monthly planning. That's one thing that I have not been doing, and um,
Yeah,
I want to understand that a little bit better. Um, Planning for an entire month seems a little bit
crazy.
audacious. Yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
so it depends. What sort of role are you in right now? What's your role right now?
Quality and improvement manager.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we manufacture and personalize credit cards and debit cards.
yeah, and
Yeah.
how many in your team
My direct
that report
reports,
to
I've got
you?
three.
Yeah, yeah, cool, cool.
Yeah.
So tell me, how much of your month could you block out? There's like regular meetings, regular sports commitments with the kids, like the kids' swimming lessons, soccer lessons, tennis, all that sort of stuff. How much of that regular stuff could you sit down right now and block out for the month ahead? There must
Yeah.
be a bunch of that.
Yeah. Right. Right. Maybe 30 to 50%.
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah.
about business first. Do you have
Okay.
regular meetings like sales meetings that happen at the same time, or what's how many weekly meetings do you have that are and daily meetings that are regular?
Yeah. Not too terribly many. We have kind of some short daily 15-minute meetings. We have two scheduled gimbal walks during the day every day. They're 15 to
Yes.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Weekly staff meeting with my boss.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, things like that. Those are probably the regular ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Well, at least block all those out for the month
Yeah.
because then the reason being, if you block in all your meetings and then all your commitments to your family, it might be a walk, one of your monthly habits might be, I want to do at least a one walk a week with my wife or one lunch date with my wife in a month or, the things like that as well. So if you
Yeah.
don't block all those things out, you'll find that as your week progresses, all those good intentions go out the window because you
Mm,
haven't blocked them in as appointments. So
yeah,
I view them as, especially family ones, like, my boys swimming and having lunch with my girl at school and things like that.
yeah,
I view them as A1 priorities, like
yeah,
my most important clients. So if they're
okay,
locked in, then a client rings and says, "Oh, I need to see you urgently." Well, I'm not going to go and block that. I'm not going to double book because
yeah,
it's already in there.
right,
So it's just things like, so it's sort of like a safeguard to,
okay,
it's, yeah, in some ways it's a safeguard to living your best life because you've blocked out all those important things. Same with Saturdays and Sundays, blocking out, it might be church, it might be tennis with a mate, it might be, whatever it might be for your mental well-being as well, and
mhm,
your health and fitness. And then during the week, your daily fitness sessions or whatever you do for fitness, blocking all that stuff out.
yeah,
Otherwise all the other little things will creep in.
right,
You've probably seen the rocks and pebbles and sand concept
right,
before. It's the same
hmm,
idea, really. If you fill your jar with the sand first, there's no room for the rocks and pebbles, which are the big important things in life.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Okay,
And it just, yeah. So I'm a big fan of actually planning your whole year ahead if you can. So I try
yeah,
and block out, months and months ahead. And in
yeah,
my digital calendar, I block out all my regular key appointments, for a whole 12 months in advance. And that's
okay,
really, really important. I'm thinking about,
okay,
for the next planner, actually putting a 12-month, calendar in there so you can do that.
okay. Just jotting this down here.
And the next one was, I do okay. Oh, sorry, any more questions around that one? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next one for you.
Oh, no, no, next one. Next one's fine. Yep.
So I do okay planning for work-related things, but not as well for personal things. How can I get better at that?
Mm,
Yeah, I guess we've just covered that, really, is that if you treat those personal things with your family as your A priorities, then you should definitely be blocking them in the month in advance.
mm,
And then when you're blocking out your week, making sure you might have missed one, making sure that's blocked in and locked and loaded.
yeah,
Um, Another thing that's really helpful, I don't know if you use it, but in the front of the planner, you've got the weekly routine. I'm just going to bring mine up now
yeah,
and see if I can show you that. But if you've got your daily routine template, that kind of makes it easy when you're planning your week as well,
mhm,
because you can just sort of like go back and flick through that, and then
yeah.
you can adjust that over time as well.
Hmm.
Um, so does that cover that one, or do you want some more info around that?
Yeah, I think what it's also indicative of is, it's weird. Like when it comes to work, it seems like I'm much more diligent about planning out this stuff, and maybe um, transparently, it's showing that family should become more of a priority of mine. If I'm not
Yeah, that's
planning
good.
out those things, then
Yeah.
what does that show?
Yeah, well,
So
it's not that you don't care. It's probably more the fact that it's never been a habit. And honestly,
yeah,
99% of people like that I talk to are the same. They're like, I get them onto Habit Share and
yeah,
share my habits with them, and they're like, oh, I hadn't even thought of having a walk with my wife as a habit, or
yeah,
a lunch date with my wife as a habit, or
mm,
or my kids swimming, or
yeah,
playing sports with the kids after school, or picking the kids up from school. Or so if you're not, as Paul always says, if you're not deliberate about everything you do, you just end up living a sloppy life or a haphazard life. And I honestly, up until probably 10 years ago, I was exactly the same. I'd plan every minute for work, but then plan almost nothing for the weekends. I'd put down an action list, but I'd never block it out,
yeah,
and I'd never put it in as appointments. But now I do the same for Saturday and Sunday, and it means you
yeah,
have, when the weekend's over, you've had you've put your best foot forward. You've had
yeah,
lots of quality time with the kids.
yeah.
You've done all the special things that you need to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So it's just a mindset shift, really, and it's uh, and you can't beat yourself up because it's not that you don't care. You care deeply about family. That's obvious, but it's just that you've never practiced blocking
Yeah,
these things out as appointments,
yeah,
because we're not taught any of these things, are we, really? And
yeah,
even when you do time management training at work, they don't teach you about time management training for home, do they?
right. Yeah,
And you can
yeah,
lump things in too. So like you can go, if you look at my planner, you'll see from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. is I have a routine, but I just
yeah,
call it MR, which is morning routine.
Okay.
So I don't list down every damn little thing that I do,
Yeah.
but it's MR, and then the evening routine with the kids from from 8 p.m. onwards, it's ER, and
Yeah.
that's all the things that I do with the kids to settle them down and do
Yeah.
do the things I need to do with them.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense. Yeah,
yeah,
you're referring to a routine that's already written down elsewhere.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
might have that routine written in the front of your planner, or you might have it on habit share, or you might have it captured somewhere.
Right.
But your planner's where you want to make sure it's your number one platform for living your life.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So that's a good one. Any more around that one? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next one.
No, I'm ready for the next one. Yeah.
Cool. The next one was, is there anything wrong with doing the system digitally? Absolutely not. We've just created in the last couple of months a PDF planner for those because I've got a lot of friends who use the Remarkable,
Yeah.
digital planner or the
Uh-huh.
Remarkable tool. And so I've sold a lot like that now, and people are loving that. People that just don't want paper.
Right.
Personally, I think there's magic in pen and paper. That's just my opinion, and lots of people that have bought the planner in this last 12 months have been the same. They've gone away from digital and back to paper and found that
Uh-huh.
it's writing those commitments down to themselves has had more power and more meaning. So, yeah, I would say if you want to shift all to digital, give it a go, but just be careful that that things don't become less important or you start fudging things or sliding things because it's so easy to,
Yeah.
especially if you're using like, Microsoft Calendar, it's so easy to slide things around and you really
Yeah.
don't, hard to measure your actual as well, so hard.
Yeah.
But with our PDF version, you can still do all the same stuff on like a Remarkable or a
Yeah.
tablet device, and give it a go if that's what you want to
Okay.
do. If you want to go paperless, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
What's your
Cool.
opinion what's your falls and against for both? Like, what would you do
Yeah,
for
I've
say for
done
next
a
year?
similar system uh, to go paper only. I did that for a while, um, and then I transitioned to digital,
Yes.
and that's kind of what I'm doing now. And it works fine. I think it's I found another tool online called Rescue Time that kind of monitors where my time is going, and if I step away from my desk over a certain after a certain period of time, it'll give me a pop up that will prompt me to
Yep.
enter what was I doing, and so I'm
Yeah.
able to fill
Nice.
out my actual that
Yep.
way. But that only works for work,
Hmm.
um, so I don't really have that for personal. But
Yep.
yeah, I'm kind of I'm open to doing either way. Digital in a lot of ways is kind of is really quick to enter things, move things around like you said, or
Yeah.
set up reoccurring um, meetings and things like that.
Yes.
Reoccurring time blocks.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, as long as you've always got it handy so that you've got whatever it is, whether you're using our hard copy of the planner or whether
Mhm.
you're using the digital copy,
Yeah,
making sure it's always close to hand. That's the key thing, and on the weekends too. So keep it on the kitchen bench or keep it in
yeah,
your on the dashboard of your car or wherever wherever
yeah,
you're going to be, so you can still track your plan versus actual. On the
yeah,
weekends, I tend to get a little bit more looser with the actual, but I always find the weekends where I record the actual, as it happens. I
Mhm.
always get way more satisfaction out of that because
Yeah,
I know I've done everything I wanted to do with the kids and my
yeah,
wife and family, and and
yeah,
it's just a good feeling when you get to the end of
yeah,
the weekend and you couldn't really have done much more
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah,
with the time you got available.
yeah.
So that's a good one. And then, oh, sorry, any more on that? Otherwise, I'll move on.
No, I mean you spoke well. I mean, if there's not a plan, your time tends to go to places where you wouldn't have intended, or
Yes,
it gets sucked in by whatever demand is
yep,
being made at the moment. It's
absolutely. And
yeah,
one of the biggest dangers and problems in today's society is that if you don't have this plan and you're not recording actual, the distraction of screens and phones and things
yeah,
like that, even for your kids, if you're not deliberate and you're not following a plan, suddenly I find, people say, oh, I struggle with Netflix, or I struggle with this, or I struggle with my phone or scrolling on social media. Well, you know, a if you can't handle it or can't resist the temptation, just delete the app altogether.
Mm.
I know a lot of people that have done that now, and I'm always urging people to do that if you can't resist it. Otherwise, put your phone on charge somewhere. This is the problem. If you, but when I use the planner, you're not going to waste your weekend scrolling,
Yeah.
or even an hour scrolling, or even half an hour scrolling, even 5 minutes, because you feel you've got a plan and you're following
Yeah.
that plan. And if you stop and waste time on your phone or let the kids do the same, there's valueless activity, right? And
Yeah.
so, as was it Toichi Ono said, is that if valueless activity is equivalent to shortening one's life, so if you think about it that way, time is your most precious commodity. Every
Yeah.
second counts, every minute counts.
Exactly.
And as you know, every hour that goes by, your life gets shorter and your time gets more scarce and more valuable. So
Yeah.
you just got to keep thinking of these things, and the planner is an awesome way of living life deliberately,
Yeah.
and cutting out that waste.
Exactly. And I think there's moments that come on in life where, there are interruptions, obviously. Life happens,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
things, other things may take priority. But that's okay. I mean, I think, what's the Bible verse that says, man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps.
Yes.
Um, I think having a plan is wise, and um, when things in life happen, and other priorities come up that you have to deal with, um, it's not, oh crap, my plan didn't happen. Um, I think there's a little bit of freedom there too. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
right.
Absolutely. Life happens, things come across your path that you didn't
Yeah.
expect. Absolutely right. But having that plan to fall back on is far better than having
Yeah.
no plan or a loose plan, isn't it? Because you might get something turned upside down for an hour or 2 hours or even a day or even a week, but you've still got your plan and your habits and your routine and all these things that you've developed as part of the system, to fall back on, and get you back on your feet again. Absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And sorry, any more on that one, and then otherwise we'll move on to the next one.
No, I'm ready to move on. Um,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
your
the
next one
next,
was strengths to develop, delegation.
right,
And
right.
you were asking, how do I delegate to people who don't report to me? That is a hard one. I guess the first question I've got is, are you delegating everything you possibly can, like lower value tasks, to your team? Are you replacing yourself all the time?
Mm.
Um, are you letting go of things that could be done by others? If you've got other people across the business that could be doing some of your work, then talking to your manager and saying, hey, by the way, I'm still bogged down by this low value task. I could be adding a lot more value to the business. I would love to be able to delegate this task to this person. Can we do that? So I suppose, I mean, you might have already tried all this stuff, but often it's just a conversation
Yeah.
with someone, and you've got to, I mean, I always say everyone is in sales, so you got to sell that concept to
Mm.
them and say, hey,
Yeah.
I could be adding way more value for this firm. You're paying
Mm.
me this much money,
Yeah.
and I'm still stuck doing this because my team can't do it.
Mm.
But
Mm.
could this person do it? Or am I missing your point?
No, that's exactly it. I think there's a temptation because to be the one that knows how to do everything, and I think it, maybe does take a little level of humility to say, I could do this, but
Yes.
um, I'm gonna give this to someone else.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
so
Yeah, well, if you want to advance your career and you want to advance others' careers, then yeah, you have to just keep getting better at delegating. Say to people, delegate like a maniac. Like if you're a lean maniac, I'm sure you are in that camp. Delegation should be part of that. Delegate like a maniac,
yeah, yeah,
and keep replacing yourself, because the faster you can do that, the faster you can grow, and
yeah,
the faster those around you will grow too. But a delegation is not abdication. That's another thing to be clear on.
yeah,
In my years as in leadership roles, I've had managers under me that think they can throw something to someone and that's it. But really important to make sure delegation is, you pass the task on, but you train people how to do it. You follow up. make sure they've got an SOP. If there's not an SOP, get them to create one based on your instructions. Make sure you're replacing yourself properly.
Yeah, that's a good point. SOP.
And getting them involved in creating that SOP is often the best way. Awesome. So the next one was, how do I get better at saying no, especially with the fear of not being a team player? What's the script? Yeah, that's a hard one. And it's probably the biggest challenge for probably everybody, most people in life actually, is everyone wants to be, please people around them and say yes. But every time you say yes to something that's not in your priority list, you're saying no to something that is. Like, you can't do everything. So I guess without offending other people, we say, yeah, well, I could do this. If you're talking to your manager, for example, you say, yes, I could take this on, but something else is going to suffer. Like, what are your what are my priorities for my role? Here's my daily task. And this is why I always say to people, make sure you're really clear on your job description, so that you've got or even a position analysis form, PAF, so that people can see where your time's going every week. So you go, here's my daily tasks, weekly tasks, and monthly tasks. Yes, I can take on this new thing, but I'm either going to have to do more hours at work, or something else is going to suffer. Again, I'm sure you've tried these things, but I guess that's my job today, is to try and, give you another reason to have a go.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Does that cover it, or does that answer your question?
Yeah. I think to get better at that is just going to take a little practice, like with anything. But also a little bit of courage too, because
Yes.
like you said, we all want to be people pleasers, and
Yeah.
I'm no different. And
yeah.
Telling the person no, but also explaining why. It all depends on the situation too. But
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. No, that's good. Well, that's just a few ideas to help you there. Always happy to discuss that a bit deeper if you want to. And then the other one was, how do I get better at not procrastinating? Often it's because I don't know where to start. This is a huge challenge with so many people I chat to. Again, it's where the planner comes into play. It's like I just say to people, every day, if you need to, read the info or the training system at the start of the book, ABC 1, 2, 3, how to how to manage your time and how to prioritize. The other important page that a lot of people skip over to their detriment is the page about I'm just trying to find it now. The power questions. So, like, what do I want my ideal life to look like? What kind of person do I need to become? What goals, what obstacles, and what actionable steps? Because that way you figure out your life's mission, and you figure out your mission at work as well, and at home. And that kind of helps you to then go ABC 1, 2, 3, because what's an A1 priority? Does it line up with my core purpose? Does it line up with my job description? Yeah, so these tools kind of work together. And then I say, when you're sitting down on Saturday or Sunday to plan the week ahead, just have a quick read through those pages again. ABC 1, 2, 3, how to plan your next day before leaving work. I tell you that one of the biggest cures for procrastination is making sure your next day is planned well. So you get out of bed, you hit the ground running, and you're just going from one task to the next. You're not ever going to get perfect at prioritizing, but imperfect action is better than perfect inaction, isn't it? So, like, just create momentum, and each day you're going to get slightly better at prioritizing and slightly better at figuring out what's important and what's not. And sometimes you might spend an hour on a task and you get to the end and go, actually, I should have delegated that, or that wasn't a priority for today. But then you learn from that reflection, don't you? And again, if you hadn't written down your actual, you wouldn't even know you'd spent an hour on that. You kid yourself. I spent 20 minutes on that. Yeah, that's okay. Actually, you spent an hour and 20. That's not okay. What the heck was I doing that for? So that should help with procrastination. It's the biggest one really is have a plan for the next day, plan the week ahead, plan the day ahead, plan the month ahead, and it stops you falling into that procrastination trap. I remember first going into business when I was 18, and I was terrible at procrastinating because I had no idea what my priorities were. I'd never done any time management training, and it wasn't until I went to a course about 4 or 5 years down the track and I learned about ABC 1, 2, 3. I learned about time blocking. I learned about tracking your actual. Everything changed. It was unbelievable. I went from just spinning my wheels to
Mm.
blocking time, recording actual,
Yeah.
and sure, I wasn't perfect at it, and I'm still not, but every day you get slightly better. So that was an absolute life changer for me. And anyone who's used this system since we've been selling these Ultimate Life Planners, there's been so much feedback saying you've completely changed the way I think
Wow.
about my life and
Yeah.
my time and my priority. It's been amazing, actually. Probably the biggest reward for me has been
That's
that
awesome.
feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been amazing. So, does that help on procrastinating?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the big theme in all this is um, the better you plan, the better it's going to go for you in
Yeah,
general.
absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's kind of what I'm seeing through all
Yeah,
this. And
yeah. And
you,
it's
you
easy
talk,
to get sloppy on these, Nathan.
yeah,
It's so easy to get casual, to wane, to get sloppy. Oh, it's why it's good to have like an accountability partner or a coach or a
yeah,
mentor or someone that you say to them, look, I've got this, I'm invested in this life planner. I want to make sure I'm using it every day, every week,
yeah,
every month. Please hold me accountable, like,
yeah,
you might have someone on habit share. If you're struggling with using this every day, get on
yeah,
habit share, get a couple of mates and say,
mm,
hey, kick my butt if I don't if
yeah,
I don't use this planner, because holding yourself accountable is really
yeah,
difficult. And
yeah,
again, another massive game changer for me in life was getting on habit share. That was 2017 when a mate showed it to me, or it might have been a family member actually, and he showed me, and we started sharing some habits, and I went from, would have been lucky if I was achieving probably 15-20% of habits, and suddenly, just having someone watching, now I'm consistently above 80, and there's no way I would do that if I didn't use habit share. There's just no way. You
yeah.
just kid yourself,
That's awesome. Yeah,
on your daily fitness, your daily health, your eating, your relationships, all the different things that are important that you just think, oh yeah, I am achieving that, but actually you're not.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so
That's
that's
so
been
good.
amazing for me. Yeah.
Good,
Yep.
good. Awesome.
Um,
Well, this has
uh,
been immensely helpful, Bernard. You give me a lot to think about. I've taken a lot of notes here. So, um,
Yeah, that's awesome. I
yeah,
appreciate you jumping on and making time, because every time someone like you does this, it helps, hundreds of others, and it's blimmin', I always get a lot of help myself by just verbalizing it again as
yeah,
well. It's really, really powerful. So, and it keeps me going.
yeah. Great,
So,
great.
I'll let you go because you've got family, to get back to. And is there any other final last minute questions or anything else you wanted to cover off?
Now I'll keep you posted on how this goes. Thanks, Bernard.
Yeah, I want to hear. I want
Yeah.
to hear an update again in a week or two.
Okay.
Okay, thanks heaps,
Sounds
Nathan.
good. Thanks,
Okay, all the
Bernard.
best. See ya.
Take
Have a
care.
great evening.